Hi, thanks for joining the webinar today. This is Carrie Schroeder and Mike Stormberg from Anvil Media, and we're going to be talking today about conversion rate optimization and how to increase revenue via A/B testing and improving the user experience to increase conversion rate. And I'm going to hand it over to Mike to get us started.
So first, we're going to be talking about conversion rate optimization and what that is. Next, we'll dive into a conversion rate optimization plan. Then we'll talk about landing page optimization, button and call to action optimization. Next, we'll go into copy optimization. Then lastly, we'll talk about email copy and the design of email and optimize that. Then we'll go into talking about a conversion rate optimization checklist. If we have time at the end, we'll show you some of our favorite tools and resources when we're doing conversion rate optimization.
And if there's any questions, please leave them in the chat area and we'll get to them at the end.
So first, what is conversion rate optimization? Conversion rate optimization, or CRO, is the process the business uses to create, implement, and analyze the elements of a website that affects whether an individual user will take the desired action or convert. And one popular method we use to test out the website elements for conversion rate optimization is A/B testing. A/B testing or split testing allows you to compare two or more versions of the site or app against each other, and use that and use statistical analysis to determine which version performs the best for the conversion that is being tested out. So examples of elements, like I already said, that we will be talking about today, so the landing page optimization, button and call to action optimization, copy optimization, and email copy. So 6 factors that affect conversion rate: your value proposition, the overall perceived benefit and cost in your customer's mind, the relevance to your customer, how closely the content matches what they're expected to see, clarity, how clear your value proposition is, main message, and call to action is. Anxiety, any elements on your page that are creating uncertainty with the user. Distraction, conflicting or off-target content, and urgency, large threat users take action now. So here's an example of a conversion rate optimization plan, and as you can see, this is kind of a continuous cycle. You go through 1, 2, 3, 4, and you start over again. So in stage 1, building new landing pages, you start out with a templated design, you write the copy, code the page, and verify that everything's tracking correctly. Next, you move on to testing using different variations. So your overall template, your headline, your images, and your call to action. In the third stage, recording the test results using Google Analytics, sometimes Livewall, and checking out conversions to see which version is doing best. And in the fourth stage, you're implementing what came out specifically on top. You're implementing that winner. You delete the users, review the data, revise the testing strategy, and then you start over again.
Next, we're going to talk about landing page optimization. And just some examples of landing pages versus the homepage on your website. Typically, the goals for your homepage are just to inspire visitors to go to other pages on your site that satisfy their informational needs. And for a landing page, it's to turn visitors into leads and be that page that satisfies their informational needs. So you don't want them having to look elsewhere for the content that they need that should be directly on the landing page, whereas on your homepage, it may not necessarily be exactly what they're looking for. And then you want them to take a desired action on the landing page. There's always a single call to action, easily clickable, whereas on the homepage, it just draws visitors kind of deeper into the website, so there's actions to click through to something else or to specific content. Visitor intent, just very specific versus broad. Navigation, on your homepage, you always have a full range of options. There's always a menu bar of different places that they can navigate to. On a landing page, you typically have 0 navigation or minimal, maybe 1 or 2 places that they can click, but typically you don't want people to click away from the page when they're on a landing page. And there's different traffic sources. For homepage, typically varies. Landing page, you usually have it for a specific campaign, either for an email or an ad strategy, things like that. Content, you have your overall business category, positioning, copy, and on a landing page, again, it's much more specific to the benefits of the desired action or the information that they are seeking. And then landing page versus kind of overall website optimization, just the goal is for the website is to tell visitors, again, to dig deeper into your site. Landing page is to get the visitor to convert directly from that page. And I'm just going to point out a few on this page because some of this is similar to what we just talked about. But the call to action, sometimes on the website, a page will have 2 to 3 different ones. And on a landing page, you'll have one specific call to action. There's always an image or video on the landing page that's a very specific image showing what they're going to get or an image related to the content on the page. On your website, you're going to have multiple things, different things to capture emotion, cause action, what your company offers. And on the website, you have a value prop for your headline, whereas on the landing page, you might have a little bit of a value prop, but it always talks about a call to action and what you want them to do at the beginning of the page. So the 5 core elements of a landing page is your unique selling prop, so main headline, supporting headline, reinforcing statement, and then a closing argument. You always want to have a hero shot, so an image or a video showing the context of use, so either something really similarly related or showing somebody doing an action that's similar to what you'd expect the user on that page to be doing. And the next one is showing the benefits of your offering, a bulleted list of the summary of benefits, and then benefits and features in detail. The detailed section could be anywhere from a couple sentences to a few paragraphs, depending on the audience and your testing. If you tested the length of the copy on the page, it could be longer or shorter. Typically, we stick to about a paragraph, but depending on the content and your audience, it may make sense to make it longer. For proof, you need social proof and trust indicators, so potentially some testimonials or some statistics backing up what the information on your landing page is saying so that people will take action and convert. And then a single conversion goal, so the call to action preferably is a button, really clear and only the one on the page. You might have it on the page multiple times, but it should be the same call to action on the page, even if it's on there multiple times. So some landing page best practices. You start with a simple, proven template, whether it's one that you create or one that you use from a landing page building tool. And then you make your unique value props clear, so making sure that people know exactly what you want them to do on the page and also what you are providing to them. Keep your copy short and sweet. Typically, shorter is better. There are situations where you may use some longer copy, and we will kind of address that later on. And utilize short forms liberally. Make sure that your forms are as short as possible. Require as little information as you possibly can, just because the less information people have to give you, the more likely they are to convert. Including the trust marks, again, just the social proof, any kind of testimonials, statistics, etc. And then incorporating chat and click to call. So if you have a chat option on your website or an option for them to call you, it can't ever hurt to have that on the page. Testing price-based messaging. If you have pricing that you can give, that's never a bad thing to put on these pages. Let people know how much they're paying for what you can give them. And then segmenting your visitors, so making sure that the people you're sending it to are relevant and are going to get use out of the content, and testing the multi-step pages to identify the weaknesses. So just testing the different pages with different differences. So testing the different elements of the page to identify any weak spots. And then creating landing pages focused on the one goal. So you always want just the landing page to be focused on one thing. You don't want multiple goals or multiple pieces of content on one page. Keeping the headlines bold and short. So you want the headline to be short but useful, and it should, all the landing pages and the headlines especially should pass the blink test, meaning that somebody looks at your page and by the time they blink, they understand instantly what the page is about and what they're getting out of it based on the headline and any other copy right at the top of the page. The landing page copy has to be convincing, to the point, and genuine, so convince them, but do it in a concise manner and make it sound genuine. And then all images would be used in sync with the content and keeping it cohesive. So making sure that everything is aligned and that the imagery isn't completely different than what the content on the page is, making sure that like the messaging is cohesive to anything else you produce around that same topic. And you can test the CTAs, the color, the size, the message. It all matters, and that's something that we can test, and we'll kind of dig into that a little bit later on. And making sure load time is pretty instant so that people aren't sitting waiting for your page to load, because the longer they have to wait for it to load, the less likely they are to stay on the page.
Next, we're going to just look at some quick landing page KPIs, key performance indicators. The first being bounce rate, and bounce rate is the percentage of visitors who view the landing page and then leave either by clicking back to the previous page, closing the browser completely, or typing in a new address, all without interacting with the page. Next is the exit rate, and that's the percentage of visitors who view the landing page and actively click away to a different page or site. As opposed to bounces, visitors who exited may have interacted with the landing page in some way. Click-through rate is the next one, and that's the number of clicks in a particular campaign element, or on a particular campaign element, including goals, given as a percentage of the total number of unique page views. Next is the actual conversion rate, and that is measured by the number of potential visitors performing that desired action that you want them to take, and whether the action is buying a product or filling out a form or some other goal of the web page. The last is subversion rate, and that subversion rate is the percentage of those who segmented and converted. The next, like Carrie said, we're going to talk about the actual button and call to action optimization that you can look into. So guidelines for effective button design, these are the things you're going to test one versus the other when you're doing your A/B testing. First being contrast. The contrasting color is the best way to make your button stand out from the rest of the page. You don't want it to blend in the menu bar or blend into whatever is the background. So choosing the color that makes it stand out, and rather than the color you like the best. You don't want to make it clash. Next is clickability. You want to make it actually look like a real button with a clear call to action. Look, the prominence and visibility is essential. If your button is buried on the page far down, it's less likely to be clear that it's a target element for conversion. You have to make it stand out, and always make sure it's above the fold. And next is directional cues. You can guide your prospect's attention where you want them to click using some kind of directional clue. An example would be an image with somebody actually pointing up, into the corner where the button is, or somebody looking in that direction. That's direction. Next, the call to action copy on the button is important. As a general rule, it should describe exactly what will happen when the button is clicked. For instance, download free ebook or request a call. Never use something like submit or click here. Those don't really describe what's going to happen when that individual clicks the button. Any supporting information that's needed, a headline or subheadline above the form with a call to action or a short sentence right above the button to explain what they are getting by clicking. And establishing a sense of urgency. If there's a time or quantity limitation on your offer, be sure to restate it beside your button to encourage that click. For the text on your button, try including words like now or today.
And something else just to add here, it's not on the slide, but from your call to action in your button, always make sure you do to a thank you page, because that helps with the user experience. You can also include content pieces on your thank you page that will download, and it just gives them a better experience than just having something on the page that says thank you for download, or thank you for submitting, thank you for your request. pops up on the same page. It's better practice to have a page that they get taken to after, plus it helps with tracking the conversions from that page.
Yeah, we're going to look at some visual examples of different conversion optimizations here. The first being a form, and as you can see, the control of the form is up top in the corner, and they actually had, when they did a A/B testing, they had 304% more conversions with moving the form kind of down to the left, but they had a lot of arrows and instructions to find that form. Next is button test, and the control being order information, doesn't really tell you what you're getting, and the next thing, get information, and with that there was 38% more conversion. And then the last button test, the control was read full essay now, and the A/B test, get instant access now, really establishes that sense of urgency and drives the conversion. And then to optimize the copy on your landing page, so number one, you want to make sure, obviously, that your site is working and your page speed is great. But copy optimization is one of the most important aspects. So if your copy isn't optimized to what the people who land on that page are looking for, it serves no purpose and won't drive any conversions. So some things to test copy-wise is the copy length and format. Is the page for the entire site better suited? Is the long form or short form better? Maybe a bulleted list format. So those are some things you can test as far as the copy length. The action and motivation-oriented phrases. Are you motivating your users to convert in the copy? So are you using phrases that ask them to convert or download something, things like that, aside from the button that you're obviously going to have on the form, just making sure you're using some of that actionable language in your copy as well. And then using headlines and subheadings to grab the reader's attention. Again, kind of that blink test, make sure the headline is attention grabbing and that it explains what the page is about really briefly but clearly. And then testing the wording and the font size might help also. Different font sizes and different boldness of the text might draw attention differently. So definitely something to test there. So kind of some examples of copy length. On the control, they had a much longer landing page with a lot more copy on it. It did have like a bigger image at the bottom, but when they shortened the copy and took off the whole bottom half of the page, it resulted in 11% more conversions, which is fairly typical. Usually a shorter page is better. People like things that they can read quickly and get value out of rather than having too much text. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. This one, the longer text did work better, but they definitely had a lot of imagery kind of down along the text, and it was segmented out into different sections for specific elements on the page. And so in this situation, the longer copy works better, and that may be in some cases, but typically the shorter version tends to work better. And next we're going to talk about email optimization and A/B testing and some ways that you can use email to also help with conversion rates. And these will kind of directly go along with the landing page optimization, because typically when you're sending out emails, at some point in the email, you will link back to a landing page or a page on your site. So you can use those tips when you're putting links in your emails for people to use. So to start out with email optimization, there are three primary categories containing elements to test in an email campaign. The first being the actual content. The first aspect of that being the from address. You can test using company name versus an individual name at the company. The subject line, test word order, personalization, like including a subscriber script name. And the character word count, something we're seeing more often is emojis and really looking at the tone and the voice. Pre-header text is test the same items as subject line. Body copy, here you, again, you're going to test personalization, then you can test things like the bullet points, the length, and again, the tone and voice. And then, as with most conversion rate optimizations, you're going to test the call to action. Test different button types, links, wording, colors, and placements of call to action within the email. The next element being design. You can test templates, single column versus two column, color palette, format, navigation structure, etc. Images, similar to landing pages. Image is very important. So you test different photos, illustrations, borders, header bars, etc. And then one of the big elements of design is plain text versus HTML. And then lastly, timing. When in the day are you sending out the message? When are people more likely to be checking their emails? 10 a.m. versus 2 p.m. 6 a.m. versus 6 p.m. Day of the week. What day are you getting the most traffic and the most open on your emails? And frequency, the number of follow-up emails based on the subscriber response.
Yeah, so that would be basically how many emails you send out around that same topic into the same people based on how the open rates are and how they're responding to the content.
So with email optimization, starting to conduct an A/B email test, you want to define your subscriber audience segmentation. For example, you may want to segment your subscriber audience based on engagement metrics, purchase history, or demographics. For the audience segmentation, confirm the test group size. Your test segment needs to be large enough to reach statistical relevance. And finalize what elements will be tested. And then determine the time period between the send time and the analysis time so you can get those results. And then when you're determining the winner in an A/B email test, for the three content elements of from address, subject line, and pre-header, a winner is determined by the higher open rate of these touch points are seen before an email is opened. The open rate also applies to timing elements. To determine a winner when testing the other elements, you will want to compare at least one of the following: click-through rate, click-to open rate, and website conversion rate once email subscribers have clicked onto your website. And after you have determined the winning element, send the winner to the remainder of your audience that did not receive either test.
And then just some email best practices. We have these listed under email best practices, but some of these are best practices that can be used across all elements of A/B testing. Having a clear hypothesis, so knowing what you're trying to achieve, the control versus the test, and have a solid rationale for why you're testing what you're testing. If you wanted to test it, addressing the subscriber by name in the subject line versus not, give it an increased open rate, you would test one subject with the line personalization, the other without. Same thing with landing pages. You can test like the header and different headers, and you can also personalize landing pages. There are systems out there where you can personalize landing pages so they'll say hi and then the person's name. You can test things like that. And testing a large sample, so making sure you're sending things to enough people, testing the landing pages against a big enough audience, same with emails, making sure that one half receives one and one half receives the other, so you have a big enough sample size to actually determine a winner. And listen to the data collected, not your gut instinct. So even if you think one might work better than the other, definitely listen to the data, make sure that you're basing your winner on what the actual data was, not what you necessarily thought it would be. And using tools available on your email platform for quicker and easier A/B testing. Most platforms out there have some pretty great tools to test templates and test colors and links. So use the tools you have available. And if you don't have any tools available, we have some ideas for tools in this presentation deck at the end that we can suggest if you're looking for something to use. And make sure you're testing only one variable at a time. So if you have one specific thing you want to test, so for example, in emails, if you want to test subject line, only test the subject line, leave everything else in the email the same. Same with the landing pages. If you want to test the button call to action, only change the text on the button. Don't change anything else. Leave the colors the same and everything else on the page the same. Just change that text on the button, because if you try to do more than one, sometimes it can get confusing and you won't know which element is actually causing it to perform better. There is ways to do multivariate testing instead of A/B testing. So if you do want to test more than one, you can check out some multivariate testing options. And just keep testing. Make sure you test, pick a winner, and then test the winner against something else. You always want to be testing things, seeing what you can do to make things better. There's always ways to improve. And just know your best subject lines, calls to action, etc., landing pages, emails, everything that you're doing. And this is kind of just a conversion optimization checklist. This will just kind of give you some things to look at quickly when you're doing A/B testing, making sure that you're including all of the different elements for conversion optimization and making sure that you keep this at the ready when you do want to do some testing, and making sure that all of the elements are included on everything you're doing. So that's the end of the presentation. We do have some tools and resources here at the end. There were a couple that we wanted to touch on. So Unbounce is a landing page tool that provides templates to use for landing pages, and it usually integrates directly with a marketing automation tool or a CRM. So just a couple slides around that. This is a tool called Crazy Egg. It provides heat mapping and scroll mapping on your landing pages. Gives you the option to see where people are scrolling to on the page, how far down they're scrolling, which parts of the page they stop on, and get the most views. And then the heat mapping shows where people are clicking, what people are engaging with the most. So it kind of gives you an idea of which elements on the page people interact with the most and which parts of the page they don't interact with. So you can use that to help you with your testing and figuring out what to keep on a page and what might need to be changed. And just some ideas for some email testing tools. There's a couple out there. MailChimp and ActiveCampaign are just two of them, but there are plenty out there, and a lot of marketing automation tools and CRMs also have their own email testing tools. So if you already have one of those systems in place, likely you already have this at the ready. So here's just kind of some other landing page tools that we may not have mentioned in here, but that are good to use, and some other resources to help you figure out your conversion rate optimization. So if there's any questions, we will give people a few minutes to bring in questions. And if we don't have any questions, then that's all. Thank you for joining us today. And we will send out the slide deck and recording after the webinar for anyone who was registered. And thanks again.